Temptation. It's seductive, it's relentless, and it disguises itself as an easy escape. But as you stand at the crossroads of choice, what you must understand is this: to give in is to allow yourself to be ruled by something external, something lesser. As a true Stoic, you know that the battle isn't just against the world, it's against yourself. And in this battle, your greatest weapon is self-control. Your greatest shield is fortitude. Sit back and enjoy, as the pursuit of virtue demands you avoid temptation at all costs. So let's dive into the 10 reasons why a true Stoic must avoid temptation. You must watch the whole video without skipping any part, as this video will specifically help you avoid temptation. Now let's begin. Number 1. Temptation clouds your reason. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that the rational mind is your greatest tool for navigating life. But when temptation takes hold, it clouds your ability to make clear, logical decisions. You lose sight of the broader perspective, giving in to urges that are often fleeting and, in many cases, destructive. The more you allow temptation to influence your actions, the more you weaken your mental resilience, making it harder to act in line with your values. When you give in to temptation, you allow your reason to be overshadowed by desire. You lose clarity, and when reason is clouded, you are no longer in control. The allure of the moment blinds you to the consequences that stretch far beyond the present. You must stand as the immovable force that temptation crashes against, but never sways. To avoid temptation is to preserve the sharpness of your mind, your reason. Number 2. Breeds weakness. Stoicism teaches that true strength comes from self-mastery and discipline, the ability to act according to reason, not desire. When you yield to temptation, you're essentially letting your impulses dictate your behavior, which erodes your mental fortitude and self-control. Every time you succumb to temptation, you weaken your willpower, and weakness in the face of temptation is a slippery slope. What begins as one moment of indulgence soon becomes a habit, and habits define the very essence of who you are. This leads to a cycle of dependency on short-term pleasure, making you more vulnerable to external influences and less grounded in your inner strength. A Stoic understands that strength is forged in the fires of resistance, not surrender. If you allow yourself to be conquered by small desires, you are laying the groundwork for your eventual downfall. Number 3. Destroys inner peace. A life driven by indulgence is a life of chaos. When you constantly yield to temptation, you are never satisfied, always chasing the next fleeting pleasure, only to be left empty. As Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." When you fall into temptation, you disrupt balance, filling your mind with regret, guilt, and anxiety. Instead of feeling grounded in your principles, you become preoccupied with the pursuit of momentary pleasure, which rarely leads to lasting fulfillment. True peace comes from contentment with what you have, and more importantly, who you are. The Stoic seeks tranquility, and tranquility can never be found if you are enslaved by your desires. To avoid temptation is to safeguard your inner calm. Number 4. The road to regret. The road to regret is paved with decisions where you surrender control to your desires, only to later realize the cost of that surrender, whether it's missed opportunities, damaged relationships, or the erosion of your self-respect. By giving in, you sabotage the very foundation of a life guided by wisdom and purpose. Temptation often feels like a shortcut to satisfaction, but it is a trap. It may bring fleeting pleasure, but that pleasure is always followed by regret. Imagine standing at the end of your life, looking back at the times you chose the easy path. How many of those moments will bring you pride? How many will fill you with regret? Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, and yet we continually fear the discomfort of resisting temptation. But it is far better to suffer the momentary sting of denial than the lifelong pain of regret." Number 5. Your character. Over time, your character becomes eroded as you repeatedly forsake virtue for short-term pleasure, ultimately leading to inner conflict, regret, and a diminished sense of self-worth. Temptation isn't just a challenge, it's an opportunity. Every time you face temptation, the universe is giving you a chance to prove your character, to show the world, and more importantly, yourself, that you are not a slave to your desires. As Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. To avoid temptation is to stand tall in the face of adversity, to prove that your soul cannot be easily swayed. This is where a Stoic thrives, in the unyielding pursuit of virtue. Number 6. The enemy of discipline. Discipline is the foundation of the Stoic way of life, and temptation, it's discipline's greatest enemy. When you give in to temptation, you abandon your principles, you let go of your commitment to the long game. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Temptation is the impediment, but it is also the path to greater strength. By avoiding it, you fortify your discipline, you strengthen your resolve, and you elevate your spirit. Discipline is built on the foundation of making decisions that align with your principles and goals, regardless of how difficult or uncomfortable they may be. Temptation, on the other hand, offers an escape from that discomfort, presenting a path of least resistance that weakens your resolve. Number 7. Disconnects you from your purpose. A Stoic's life is one of purpose, driven by virtue and the pursuit of wisdom. But when you give in to temptation, you stray from that purpose. You allow your focus to be hijacked by momentary desires that have no bearing on your ultimate goal. These distractions can be pleasures, fears, or social pressures, and when you allow them to dictate your actions, you lose sight of your higher calling. Temptation clouds your judgment and weakens your resolve, making it harder to stay committed to the disciplined pursuit of your goals. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. To avoid temptation is to keep your eyes on the prize, to stay aligned with your purpose, undistracted by the trivial pursuits that try to pull you away. Number 8. Feeds destructive emotions. Temptation doesn't just weaken your resolve. It feeds emotions like greed, envy, and lust, emotions that are at odds with the Stoic ideal. As the temporary high fades, it can be replaced by guilt or regret for acting against your values, which leads to self-criticism and disappointment. This emotional turbulence often triggers more destructive feelings, like frustration for not having enough or anxiety over losing what you've gained. These destructive emotions, once ignited, burn uncontrollably, consuming your peace, your wisdom, and your fortitude. The Stoic path is one of emotional control, of not allowing external forces to dictate your internal state. When you avoid temptation, you starve these emotions, leaving them powerless over you. Number 9. Weakens your relationships. Yielding to temptation doesn't just harm you, it harms those around you. When you repeatedly succumb to temptation, you invite chaos and emotional volatility into your life, making it harder for others to connect with you on a deep level. The unpredictability of your actions, combined with the potential for betrayal, creates distance and resentment, ultimately weakening the bond that holds relationships together. Whether it's betraying someone's trust or prioritizing selfish desires over shared commitments, the fallout is often devastating. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is bad for the hive is bad for the bee." A true Stoic understands that their actions reverberate outward. By avoiding temptation, you not only protect your integrity, but you preserve the bonds of trust and respect that sustain meaningful relationships. Number 10. Temptation leads to a life without virtue. In the end, the greatest danger of temptation is that it pulls you away from virtue. The Stoic life is one dedicated to excellence of character, to wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. But how can you pursue these virtues if you are constantly distracted by base desires? As Seneca reminds us, "He who is brave is free." And freedom is only possible when you master yourself, when you rise above temptation and live in accordance with reason and virtue. Temptation is not just a fleeting challenge, it is a mirror, reflecting back at you your deepest weaknesses, but it's also a chance to rise above, to choose fortitude over indulgence, to choose reason over impulse. Avoid temptation, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And in every moment of temptation, remember this: you are stronger than you think, and your reason is more powerful than your desires. Choose to live as a Stoic. Choose to live without regret. Good day.